So in this week's video, we're going to hop in the car and drive from Whitefish all the way up to the Canadian border. And if you ever made that drive, you know that it's a beautiful drive, but I bet you didn't know there's a whole bunch of little towns along the way, and they all sit right off the highway, and they were all kind of built around the railroad. So we'll tour those towns, we'll tour Eureka, and talk about the real estate market and the prices of the homes in these different areas. So if we take a look at the map here, you'll see it's about 51 miles up to Eureka from Whitefish, and you go past all these little towns, some lakes. So let's go check it out. And the first lake you're going to come to is Lower Stillwater Lake, and you got the Stillwater Bar sitting here. There's camping around here, kind of a great place to hang out for the day on a nice summer afternoon. And like you saw on the map, there's a bunch of little towns along the way up to Eureka. The first one you come to is the town of Olney, and this post office was opened in 1907, and Olney has a population of 186 people right now, according to the last census, and this is about 18 miles north of Whitefish. And again, tiny little town, basically one road goes through town here. And right now, as far as real estate goes in Olney, there's only one house for sale in the area, and it's listed for $695,000, and it's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,700 square foot house on 39 acres. And as far as homes that have sold in Olney over the past year, there were 4, and they ranged in price from $1.5 million down to $250,000. And as you'll see with Olney and all the other little towns, there's not tons of services here. You had the volunteer fire department that we went by, but as far as stores and things like that, schools, some of these towns are going to have little elementary schools, but for high schools, you're going to either have to go back down to Whitefish or up to Eureka, depending on where you are. Most of these little towns along this route were here since the early 1900s, but it's basically when the railroad came into town is when these little towns kind of grew more than they are now. And there's another town that I didn't even drive into because there's really nothing there. The post office is abandoned, and there's like one house there. It's called Stryker, and that's 30 miles north of Whitefish. And that town has a population of 26. And it was a fire wiped that town out in 1926, and then the railroad depot that was there closed when they built the Libby Dam in the early 1970s. So as we get further north, about 37 miles north of Whitefish, we come upon Dickey Lake, which is a big, beautiful lake, and it's just outside the town of Trigo, and it has that real deep turquoise color when the sun is hitting it right. This day you can't really see it, but a lot of times when you drive by this, it's just spectacular, the color of this lake. And like I said, it's right before you turn into the town of Trigo, which is about 2 miles off of the highway. And Trigo has a population of 515. And Trigo is a little bit bigger than Olney because it actually not only has a post office, but it has a bar, restaurant, little store right over here as well. And it also has an elementary school in town. And Trigo is very, very rural. I mean, you'll see here in a minute, there's cows walking across the roads as you go just past this downtown area. But as far as real estate goes in Trigo, right now there's 3 homes that are currently on the market, and they range in price from $850,000 for a 4-bedroom, 4-bath, 4,600 square foot house on 19 acres. Down to $445,000 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house on 6 acres. And in the past year, there have been 5 homes that sold in the Trigo area, and they range in price from $2.5 million all the way down to $350,000. And like most of these little towns, you have the little downtown area, and then most of the homes and people are way up in the mountains off of these roads up here, and very rural, very remote living. Not everybody is gathered in the center of town. So if you do want to live in an area like this, you just have to be ready to do a lot of driving because nothing is close. It takes a while just to get to these smaller stores let alone to the bigger places where you have to drive all the way up to Eureka or back down into Whitefish. And then if you head 3 miles north of Trigo, you come to the town of Fortine, which has the biggest downtown area, if you want to call it that. And this town was actually settled in 1894, and then when the railroad came through in 1904, kind of an interesting thing I found online, Trigo and Fortine, the railroad made a mistake, and Fortine was supposed to be Trigo and vice versa. So these towns have always been switched ever since. And when the railroad realized their mistake, they figured, well, it's already on all the maps and everything. So they just left it, and it's always been that way. So here we have a little tiny golf course that's attached to Jerry's Saloon, which is kind of a cool little spot to go to if you're ever in this area. And as far as real estate goes in Fortine, right now there's 12 homes that are for sale, and they range in price from $1.4 million for a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,000 square foot home on 39 acres, down to $105,000 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 876 square foot house. And there have been 5 homes that have sold in Fortine over the past year, and they ranged in price from $620,000 down to $215,000. And like I was saying, in these little towns, there's not a lot of stores or places to shop. Here in Fortine, they have this, it's a convenience store, it looks like from the outside, but it's actually a grocery store inside. So again, if you want to get something, they have most things you need. But if you want, the Costco's or the bigger type grocery stores, you're going to have to go up to Eureka or all the way back down to Whitefish because, this store, it has the necessities, it has the basics, and it's, half convenience store, half grocery store. So you can get your staples here. But again, if you want a bigger shopping experience, you're going to have to go up to Eureka or back down into the Flathead Valley and hit the bigger stores down there. So this brings us to the northernmost town on our route, and this is Eureka, Montana. And Eureka is only 8 miles south of the Canadian border, and basically there's things that go up to the border from town. I'll show you in a little bit. There's a golf course up there, and Eureka is home to 2 different golf courses. There's really no subdivisions around Eureka except for these golf courses, so we'll take a look at the prices in both of those. But Eureka's been around for quite a while. It was settled in the late 1800s, and like I said earlier, it has all of the schools here, the high school, the middle school, elementary school, and they also have a medical clinic here that's tied into the big hospital down in Kalispell, and bigger stores. Again, if you live in these remote little small towns in the area, most people will come up here if they don't want to go all the way down to the Flathead Valley. So if we take a look at the real estate here in Eureka proper, which doesn't include the golf courses, there are 71 homes that are currently on the market, and they range in price from $4.5 million for a 6,200 square foot lodge on 49 acres that sits on a creek. It's 5 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms with a guest house, all the way down to $139,000 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house that is in the middle of town here. It's just under 800 square feet. And then if we look at the golf course areas, Indian Springs is north of town, almost at the Canadian border. Like I said, the border's only 7 or 8 miles north of town here. And Indian Springs is an 18-hole golf course with a housing development around it. There's also an RV park there. And right now there's 6 homes that are actively on the market, and they range in price from $850,000 for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 3,100 square foot house down to $599,000 for a townhouse that's 4-bedroom, 3-bath, and 3,144 square feet. And the other golf course is a little more private. It's called the Wilderness Club, and it's known around the state as being one of the top courses in the state of Montana. And they have a large development around that as well. And right now there's 17 homes for sale in the Wilderness Club, and they range in price from $1.9 million for a 5-bedroom, 4-bath, 5,300 square foot house down to $498,000 for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, little cottage that all of them sit right on the golf course. So the other cool thing about Eureka is that it is so close to the Canadian border, and basically you're the same distance from the town of Fernie, British Columbia, which is a cool little resort town with a big ski resort, as you are to Whitefish. So you can go either direction. Fernie's going to be a lot cheaper right now because of the exchange rate. And Eureka kind of got hit during COVID because the border was closed for almost a year, or maybe even over a year. I can't remember, but I remember seeing the articles of how Eureka was definitely affected because a lot of Canadians come down here to get things and recreate, and a lot of Canadian own homes around Eureka. So when the border was closed, it really hurt the economy here, and it's starting to get better now, and Eureka's back to being the nice little town that it always has been. So if you have any interest in any of the little towns or Eureka or any of the golf courses that we talked about, let me know, and I'd be happy to send out the information.
Thank you for watching our video. Please call, text, or email for more information, and don't forget to watch our other videos about Montana.